Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Toon review for this morning's Breakfast Tyne with myself, Paul. Thank you very much for joining the show. This morning, we're going to be talking about what Eddie had to say in his press conference. And of course, news came out yesterday that new CEO David Hopkinson is doing a 100-day review of the club. We'll have a look at Craig Hope's report on that because it is going literally from top to bottom of the football club. And apparently, if you're not with it and you're not with the plan, you're not going to get anywhere. So we'll come into that a bit later on. But if you do enjoy the show this morning, please do hit that thumbs up button. Very important we keep the likes coming in, as well as if you are new to the channel, please do subscribe. It is completely free of charge. All we ask for is that you hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload or a live show. Of course, memberships are available by hitting the join button just underneath myself, and super chats are available, which is the $ under the live chat. And if you do super chat, that guarantees your comment to be read out live on the show. So Eddie this morning met the media and was in good spirits again, obviously on the back of a fantastic win against Benfica. Injury-wise, looks like we've come through fine. He did say that obviously with playing a game, there's a couple of players a bit sore from knocks, during the game, or a bit, muscle fatigue, but nothing out of the ordinary, and everybody is fit. The only player he did say was still being monitored is Sandro, and that's understandable if he's had a bug. Just trying to clear it out and make sure he's fully fit. But the good thing about that is if Sandro is missing, we know we have players that can step in. Obviously, maybe not to the quality of Sandro Tonali, but at the same time, we do have quality there to step in. Miley did a fantastic job on Tuesday night against Benfica, so he can step in if Tonali isn't fully fit. And look, there's no point in risking Sandro. Yes, he's a vital player. Yes, we love him. We love everything about Sandro Tonali. But what we don't want is to, put him on the pitch when he's not feeling 100%, because that's when injuries can happen. If he's a little bit slow into a tackle, or he's holding on to the ball a bit too long and he's still feeling a bit fatigued and things like that, then obviously we don't want to risk Sandro. So it's understandable. Now, with regards to Wissa, now I did a video yesterday because there was a few reports come out that he could possibly be back in the squad by next Sunday for the away game at West Ham. Eddie kind of poured acid on that, if you like, and it still looks like the same time frame, which will be after the next international break. Now, look, I'm not sitting here saying that Wissa does not come back earlier, because we love what Eddie Howe does from time to time. He'll say things, and he did say that he's lost track of time really from the time frame that he originally gave. He said that last week as well, with the joking on with the journalists in the room there, that there's so many games and things like that. The time is completely flashing by on him, and he forgets what time frames he's given. That's the way Eddie is, guys, and that's what we know and love about Eddie, is the fact that he's able to do that. And it's, I think they're going to take the time with Wissa. By all accounts, from what Eddie said this morning, they are, he needs another pre-season, was what Eddie said, which is around 6 weeks. He also said that, don't take that as he's not going to play for 6 weeks. But to get him up to full match fitness, Eddie believes that once he's 100% fit to start really pushing, then it's another 6 weeks to match fitness. However, he did see the specialist yesterday, just a regular follow-up appointment with the specialist. All was good. All is on track, and it's looking good to get Wissa back sooner rather than later. But the original time frame is still there. Obviously, with Livramento and Lewis Hall, he said both are on track. Tino is going to be back on the field today on the grass. So it's still looking good. It's still looking good, guys. So we on the injury front. But what Eddie did say was, we've got players who can now step in and do a job, and that's the beauty that he's got now. In seasons gone by, we've been pushed to the really threadbare of the squad with injuries and suspensions. But now it really looks like, Eddie feels in a much better place as a manager because he's got a lot more players to choose from. Maybe not fullback wise at the minute, but certainly moving forward, I think they are going to, cover that. Robert says, hi, Paul, just giving you an update on my father. As you know, he passed away. We are putting my father to rest today. Robert, I hope everything goes as well as it possibly can. Obviously, funerals are never great things, but thanks for keeping me informed, matey. And we do send our love and prayers to you and your family today. It will be hard. I'm not going to sit here and say it isn't. But just try and get through the day as best you can, my friend, and know your dad's in a good place. But thank you for letting me know, mate. Paul says, even if he makes a few appearances as a sub first, I remember he did that with Bruno. Yeah, he took his time with Bruno, but I think the Bruno situation was a little bit different because, Bruno didn't have the injury that Wissa's coming back from. I think what will happen is, Wissa will make substitute appearances and things like that. Incidentally, he wasn't asked about the AFCON again, and I think that's because Eddie made it clear last week that he wasn't going to discuss the African Nations Cup. He just was not going to touch on it, and he wanted to make sure that, questions were asked about the game. And look, there will be a time, I think, when Eddie has to answer the question of the African nations. I don't think anybody's in any doubt about that. We do need to know what Wissa is going to do, what the club are going to do, and how they've gone about making that decision. I think that's something that will happen, guys, and we just have to wait for that. And I'm sure Eddie will tell us, or the club will tell us, at a time that is good enough for the football club. Ricky says, great show, riding solo last night, Paul. Really, really enjoyable with a good twist on it, mate. Thanks. Enjoyed the show last night. It was really, really good. We'll do some more of them in the future, no doubt about it. But I really enjoyed it. Obviously I've done shows on my own before. I started the channel on my own, so it's not really a problem doing shows on your own. It's just obviously getting content together, and you don't have anyone else on screen with you to get their opinion of things. But yeah, you guys in the chat were fantastic last night. It was a really good show, so thank you all for taking part in that. Now, one thing I think everybody was itching to find out this morning was Eddie Howe's thoughts on the news about Isak, and did Newcastle know that there was a problem going on? He was not asked at all about that. And I get the feeling, listen, I'm just from the outside looking in, I get the feeling that maybe he was told not to, or they were told not to ask anything about Isak and obviously the injury. And did Newcastle United know about this, these muscle problems with the hip and leading to the groin injuries? We've all said our say. We've all had our say on that, and I think Eddie doesn't want to get involved. He was then asked about obviously the small club thing, and he was asked by Craig Hope, and then another journalist asked, and he didn't answer. And listen, there's a big difference here, and this is where you see how dignified Eddie Howe is. He won't get involved in rabble with other managers like that. He's not that type of guy. And it doesn't matter how much you push and try and get an answer out of him. He will not give you that. He will not get involved. It's just, I don't know. Ash, I don't know what you're getting at there. Just not ask Billy anything. Sure, Paul might get you. No, listen, I think if that was going to happen, it would have by now, Ash, to be honest. But we don't worry about that type of thing. We say what we want on here. As simple as that. This is just the way the channel is, and it will always be this way. And look, do we get close to the line sometimes? Absolutely we do. But listen, that's just part of being, a kind of media. We are media now, aren't we? And this is media, so we'll always be the same. We won't change for anybody. But yeah, he wasn't going to get involved with Arne Slot. And look, I don't mind that. I think it just proves what a really dignified guy. Really dignified guy that Eddie Howe is. He will not get involved in silly little spats. And it just goes to show you, we can say what we want about Arne Slot. And I said my piece about him last night on the show, when we spent a good 20-25 minutes talking about the situation and whether Newcastle knew about the situation with Isak or not. I hope they did, because it's funny. So listen, Eddie won't get involved. It just Arnie Slot can say what he wants, call us a small club, this, that, and the other. Let him get on with it. He's just a little weasel, and he's proven that he's a little weasel. The saltiness is coming. Just expect a whole barrage of it now with Isak's injury. Liverpool fans will probably have a go at us and say, oh, Newcastle must have known about this and they've ripped us off. Boo fucking who is what I say to Liverpool fans. Kiss my arse. You gave us plenty over the summer. We'll give you plenty back. But look, we can banter them. Absolutely, we can banter them all we want. But who cares? Who cares what, Eddie's not going to get involved in that sort of shite. And look, it is the way it is. Now, he did speak a little bit about the wingers as well. A good question came in, actually, about, on Tuesday night, you saw Anthony Gordon just blow them out the water. Jacob Murphy, he was very good. Harvey Barnes, brilliant when he came on. But he was asked about Elanga and said that, Elanga obviously came on later on in the game, but what is the situation with Elanga to put in performances like we saw from the other three wingers? And Eddie made a good point. He said, look, we're working very hard with Anthony on a daily basis, specifically trying to bring new things into his game and, get him up to speed on, I guess, how Newcastle play. Because in his previous clubs, nobody's... And look, many players have said this when they've joined Newcastle United, that over time, they've never worked so hard in training. They've never worked as intense as what Eddie Howe makes them do. But because of that, they become better players. And we've seen that with numerous players through the years that Eddie's been at the club, the improvements we've seen week on week, year on year of players. And I think that's the beauty of Eddie Howe. He brings these players to new levels. And that's exactly what we're seeing again. And hopefully we'll see with Anthony Elanga. I think the main point Eddie's trying to make this morning with Elanga is just give him a bit more time. New club, new environment. Obviously, the other wingers performing fantastically on Wednesday. Maybe that will help Anthony Elanga as well get to new levels. But I think it's nice that Eddie is basically saying, look, we are strategically working with Anthony very hard to bring new things to his game that he hasn't necessarily had at other clubs. And I don't mind that. I don't mind that because we know Elanga has qualities. We know that Elanga can be better. And I think he will be better. So let's just pray that we do see the very best of Anthony Elanga in the future. But again, Eddie's not going to throw players under the bus. He does not do that. But he's very positive about the players and very positive of working. Now, one thing that I did pick up through the press conference today, he mentioned a couple of times, was the fact that at the moment, the way the games are coming so fast, and he mentioned Nick Voltemada in the same paragraph, really. That it's very hard to work with these players at the minute because of the amount of games that are coming up. And then as soon as they get a break in the games, they're off on international duty. So it's very, very difficult to really have some one-on-one time with players to work on different things in training. And you can understand that because the players need the rest. They then need to work on certain things that tactically they're going to put into place against various opposition that they're coming up against. They'll work on things today that they didn't work on for Benfica, that they'll find more tactically better for the game against Fulham. So, there's various different things in that. And it's very different and difficult for Eddie Howe to work one-on-one with players. So I do think, yes, we've been hard on Elanga, but that, he comes with a big price tag, and I think that's the problem here. Players come with big price tags. We expect them to hit the ground running straight away, especially because he's played in the Premier League before. And I think that's the problem that we have in our own minds as fans. Well, he's used to the Premier League. Why is he not doing it for Newcastle? It's a very different environment at Newcastle, and that's what I said a few minutes ago. Working under Eddie is very different to working under any other manager in the Premier League. And, you saw when Eddie first came to the club, the players were all blown out their asses. They weren't used to the intensity. And players, over the time that Eddie Howe has been manager, have took that little bit of time to get going, just to get up to full speed. And maybe Elanga's one of them. He just needs time to settle into his new environment. And obviously, what Eddie Howe wants from him, because what Eddie Howe wants from him and what Nottingham Forest wanted from him are miles apart. Miles apart. And maybe, Elanga can look at the performances from Gordon and Barnes and Murphy on Tuesday night and say, right, I want a piece of the pie. So I'm going to work my arse off to get to that, to get there for what Eddie wants from me. We know he's a fantastic player, as Eddie alluded to in the conference there. He said that Elanga is a fantastic footballer, and he sees more of it than we do, obviously, on the training pitch. So I think we just need to back off Anthony Elanga a little bit and give him a bit more time, me included. But I think I say that as a supporter, really, as a fan, that we all need to just maybe just hold off and give Anthony Elanga a bit more time. And then we can, look, if it gets to the end of the season and he's done absolutely sod all for us, then yes, we're going to have a say on it because he cost a lot of money. But it's the same situation with Voldemort. It just happens to be Voldemort is actually giving Eddie Howe a bit of a let-off, really, that he doesn't have to work as closely with Voldemort to bring anything into his game, because, my God, he's already got it. But there will be things that Eddie will want from Voldemort moving forward that he's not quite seeing at the minute. But look, it is going to happen. I think he will get better. But I think listening to Eddie this morning, I think he's really making an appeal for us to give him a little bit of time, folks. Now, he was asked about Nick Pope's throw, and, has much been said about it? And Eddie sort of laughed and said, well, probably in Nick Pope's household. He's probably played that video back a million times. But Eddie said, for me, I need to, we need to move on. There's a new game coming up and things like that. And we can't sit around and celebrate and do this and that when we've got games coming up thick and fast. We all know Eddie doesn't get involved in the sentimental shite like that until, there's quiet times. When there's quiet times, like the end of the season and stuff, I'm sure Eddie looks back on all the wonderful things that he's achieved as a manager during the season, what he needs to work on. But obviously, it was a wonderful throw. But come on, I think Eddie's trying to say, well, come on, it was a throw. It was a goalkeeper throw. It worked to our advantage. He also mentioned how good Eddie Howe was. How good Harvey Barnes was, at getting after the throw. David said loads of comments about Isak and Slot, but he handled it professionally. Yeah, he did. I think journalists need to get in the habit of being in that press conference with Eddie, and if he does not answer a question about a certain subject, he ain't going to answer. He it doesn't matter how you put that comment. And listen, the thing about Arne Slot calling Newcastle a smaller club, Eddie said he wasn't going to answer that. He wasn't going to get involved in it. He didn't want to go. And then 2 questions later, a journalist asked a similar question. And all he said was, I'm going to go back to Craig Hope's question, and declined to answer it. So he's not getting involved. So why even ask? I think journalists really need to get into the habit of being in those press conferences and saying, all right, okay, he's not having anything here. So we'll ask him something different, and then maybe a bit something useful. Mark Toon says, loving breakfast time, bro. Thank you very much, Mark. Look, on the breakfast time thing, I'm obviously, I love doing these morning shows. Do we get as many viewers as we do for recorded videos or nighttime shows? No, I must be honest, we don't. But throughout the day, people do sort of watch it later on in the day, those who can't watch it live. And I have to make sure that we've got a show for you, i.e. there wasn't one yesterday, but at the same time, I'm only going to do them if there's news there to do. It's pointless sitting there with nothing to talk about. There has to be some decent stories. Normally there is, but on the mornings there isn't. I'll just wait a little bit more in the day for more news to filter through, and then we can do a video like I did yesterday and things like that. So there'll still be recorded videos and lives. I love doing this. I love doing what I do. I love interacting with you guys, and I think that's the main thing that comes from it. The live shows, I get to interact with you guys more so on videos, but sometimes videos have to be done during the day, and bring you some more news that way. So it works at the moment. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Certainly I've had the I've had the backing from you guys. You wanted a breakfast show back. We're doing one, so I love doing it. Now, moving a little bit away from the press conference this morning, Craig Hope put out a report yesterday, and it's been reported by quite a few people now, that the new CEO, David Hopkinson, who came to the club 6 weeks ago and has now had plenty of time to settle into the role and just calm things down a little bit. He's brought in a director of football now, and everything seems to be starting to gel together at Newcastle United, behind the scenes of the first team. Now, David Hopkinson has come to this football club with a fantastic background. Now, obviously, with me being a New York Rangers fan, in the NHL hockey abroad, in America, I know what he did for Madison Square Garden. I know what he did for MSG as a company. He is a fantastic business guy. He's got lots of the way the guy thinks is basically, right, how can we make money here? Where can we cut money there? And make it somewhere else. And he did it brilliantly for MSG and for the Rangers and for the the Knicks, I think they call the basketball team. And look, he works brilliantly, and he's got some fantastic plans. And I think with Hopkinson now, the report from Craig says that he is now going to be doing a 100-day review of the club. And it basically states you're either with us or with yourself. And he plans to weed out those who fall into the latter category. So those that are just in for themselves will now get nowhere at Newcastle United. And I think this is absolutely sodden brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. A guy comes in and says, right, you're either with us, or if you want to be here for yourself and you're only about yourself, you can piss off out of this football club. And is this not what we wanted for a long time now? To weed out the people who were just in for themselves. We've had so much of that shite with Newcastle United over the years. Now, listen, if he'd come in when Fat Cashley was here, right, and he weeded out everybody who was in it for themselves, that would have included getting rid of the owner. He would have turned around to Mike Ashley and said, well, hang on a minute. You're in it for yourself. Fuck off. Sell the club. But that's not what he's doing now. He's going deeper than probably any CEO has gone before, right through the club to make sure that everybody is on the same hymn sheet with where Newcastle United want to be moving forward. And we've wanted this for a long time now, for somebody to do this, somebody to kick some ass and stop letting people get away with their self-centered attitudes and thinking of themselves and I think what he means by it as well is people thinking of their own careers before Newcastle United. Yes, people want to be successful in life, and that's fine. No problem with that. But what we do need to have is people who are all in it for the club first. And if the club becomes successful, your career becomes successful. It's just a hand-in-hand thing. But if you're in it for yourself and nobody else, then you're not going to get anywhere. Now, apparently, Hopkinson, Ross Wilson and Eddie Howe have all met together, and they're presenting very much a united front, which we haven't seen in a while. There will be changes in strategy, personnel, and in time culture. And Craig Hope has been very impressed, as have other journalists, with the Canadian so far, and off-the-record chat about the club's future. Hopkinson's aim is to have everyone pulling in the right direction. Opposing ideas and disagreements are fine, but ultimately everyone has to be pulling in the same direction from the top down. So anyone who has their own ideas and actively goes against the grain may find themselves down the dole office. Unlike previous management structures, it does sound as though this one is already pretty united. Hopkinson, the new sporting director, Wilson and Howe are all set to be presenting a united front, which we don't feel has happened since the takeover went through. Sure, Eddie Howe and Amanda Staveley were close, but Dan Ashworth never felt like a fit. Then Eales, Mitchell and Eddie Howe might as well have been working for different clubs. So do people have to worry about the 100-day review? And it said, as we said, it's too early to make any judgments. We like what we're hearing, But listen, Jim Ratcliffe did the same sort of thing at Manchester United with a 100-day review. And that went really south very quickly. But I don't think, Hopkinson is not Jim Ratcliffe, and he will not do the things that Ratcliffe's done at Manchester United. I can guarantee that. Like making people redundant from the restaurant and all this kind of thing. That's not what he's doing here. He just needs to make sure that people are pulling in the same direction. And Hope said we'll have to see how it goes. We're sure there will be personnel changes, but hopefully they're just those who don't buy into the vision of the club and not just layoffs for the sake of it. We're not going to be that club. And obviously, saying it like that, you get the feeling that they're talking about Manchester United. We're not going to be that club. No way. We are very, very different to Manchester United. But I love it, right? I'm all for this. And I think a lot of fans will be all for this as well and think, right, we're actually hearing things about what the CEO plans on doing. And, obviously one of his first jobs is to review the football club in general. But a 100-day review, I think there'll be a few people behind the scenes who maybe haven't been pulling the weight will now prick their ears up saying, we're not going to get away with this anymore. If we're not on the same hymn sheet, we're not going in the same direction, then, like Craig said in his report there, they'll be down the door as quicker than they can blink. And I love it. Because what you want from a football club is everybody pulling in the right direction. Yes, disagreements will happen. Yes, people will not like certain decisions. But you get on board with it. Simple as that. Or, you're not with us. And I absolutely love it. And I think finally we have people in place who are willing to push buttons, willing to make decisions, whether they're popular or not. We have people in place now who are going to make the decisions. Becky Langley, earlier this week, sacked. As cruel as we think it is. And look, there's many people who follow the women's team very upset with the decision. But this is where we're going now. This is the type of business we're in. The higher you go up the divisions, the more is expected of you, the more is expected of your team, and you have to pull your weight. Now, I'm not saying Becky didn't pull her weight, but the fact is they've spent a lot of money in the summer. They haven't had a great start to the season. And Newcastle United's women's team's directive this season is promotion. And they're not going to take any risks about it. They want to be in the Super League. And we've got people in there now who are willing to make those unpopular decisions for the benefit of the football club. Whether it be the women's team or the men's team, they're there to make big decisions. And I'm all for it. It's sad about Becky Langley. Of course it is. Massively sad. She was very, very popular. But popularity is not going to get you success. And this is what these guys have been successful for in the past. They've made decisions that haven't exactly been popular amongst fan bases, but it's for the benefit of the club. And that's where we have to think moving forward. The benefit of the club. I think Becky personally took Newcastle ladies team as far as they could. I've watched the games this season online, and I haven't been that impressed. I've got to be honest about it being a Newcastle fan. Certainly with the players they brought in the summer, I thought they would be better. And I think that's what Newcastle United have looked at and thought, right, we need to make a decision now, not in maybe 5-10 games time when we get into a position where we just can't catch up with the others. The decision has to be now, or we give Becky the rest of the season. They've decided to make that decision now and sort it out and then go forward. And so, listen, we have to be on board. We have people at this club who are going to upset the apple cart by making big decisions. So everybody needs to be on that same hymn sheet and move this club forward. This fantastic, amazing, brilliant football club has to be brought forward to where we, or the owners, want it to be, where we have our dreams of it being. Champions League, winning league titles, winning FA Cup, all of that shenanigans is where the owners want to be. And now they have a team in place who are going to make those decisions. And they don't care if they're going to be popular or not. Their job is to make this fantastic club a giant. And if it means upsetting a few people along the line by decisions they make, go for it, is what I say. Simple as that. Just go for it. Nobody will forget what Becky did for the ladies' team. She brought them from, not even being a pro team. She's brought them up the leagues, but I think she got them to where, she couldn't take them any further. That's my belief as a fan. People will disagree with that. People will agree with that. But look, we have to, I know the interim team is in now. Peter Ramage is in there as an interim coach there with Claire Ditchburn. No relation, by the way. And we wish them the best before they finally make a decision on who they want to bring in. So we'll see how they get on in time. But it is a big decision. However, I'm all for these people in there who will make the big decisions. And we have to back them. We have to believe in what they're doing. And we haven't had this kind of team in place all in unity for such a long time. There's always been rumors about arguments behind the scenes, etc. And, with certain individuals. Now there isn't. There's a belief there that there's unity and everybody wants to move this fantastic club forward to where it belongs. That's it for this morning, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget, we are back tonight live at 7 o'clock where we have our match preview of the Fulham game. We'll take a look at both sides, Fulham's form, try and put a Newcastle 11 together. Will Eddie make many changes to the 11? And, of course, score predictions, etc. So it'll be a great show tonight. Do not miss it. There'll be a bit of Friday night banter in there, of course, as well. But if there's any more news comes out during the day, I will put videos out. So keep your notifications on, guys. But as I say, if you have enjoyed the show this morning, give it a thumbs up. And please do subscribe if you are new to the channel. All we ask for is that you hit that notification bell so you never miss any shows like this or uploads in the future. But thank you very much for watching, folks. Have a fantastic Friday, and we'll see you back live at 7 o'clock tonight. In the meantime, take care.
Come back and check out the